Hi, Ronald. It's so great to have you here. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So you are a speaker and coach, and really you specialize in teaching people anything is possible. You have quite an extensive personal story yourself and journey. Could you please share with us a little bit about your personal story and the work that you're doing today and how they're intertwined?
Yeah, I suppose my journey really started 25 years ago when I had a head injury, what's called a subdural hematoma, that left me in not a great state. And really, over the last 25 years, I've searched for anything that can sort of help me. And sort of as I have searched, so I have found that people have also asked my opinion, and I've shared various places around the world the insights that I've gained that have helped me to recover. And obviously Buteyko and breath, came on the radar as sort of natural therapies that I'm interested in. I mean, I'm currently just finishing a PhD in natural healing and nutrition. So I suppose you sort of find some of these more interesting modalities, if that's the right word. And I think I first came across Buteyko. I mean, I'm a qualified yoga teacher, and I've been to India 3-4 times to learn about breath. But I sort of found that that what they were teaching, I sort of couldn't do, or like I would do it, and I came home and I practiced every day for 9 months, 2 to 3 hours a day. But it didn't really seem to be helping. And I think in the course of many of the things, and I'd looked at things from Feldenkrais, from movement to the Alexander technique, which is the way that you use yourself. So obviously, I tried the pranayama route in India, and somehow in amongst all of this, I came across Buteyko. And I read a couple of books, and I even tried an online app, but I didn't really get anywhere. And then I sort of eventually decided, well, there must be somebody else out there who actually knows what they're talking about. So I eventually came across, Sasha's website, and I thought I'd try the online program. So I followed that for a month, and then I did the one-on-one with Sasha, and I found it such a liberating experience that I'd sort of nearly got there in going to India. I'd nearly got there with breath. I'd nearly got there with Buteyko. But I was doing some of the things slightly wrong, and I think learning about control pause has really helped. It's given me this tool to measure where I am in my health, and I use it for everything. From whether I'm talking to walking to what food I eat. And it's slowly but surely changing my life. It's not a quick fix, but it's something that even in the short time I've been doing it with Sasha, which is just over 3 months, I see the benefit. I have studied, or part of my PhD, I study a thing called natural hygiene that looks at, you know, a natural way of being. And, you know, one of the things it advocates is rest. And I found that when I first started doing more exercise with Sasha, that I was actually pushing myself too hard. But up until that point, I didn't realize, because I didn't have anything to measure. So then when I measured my CP, I could see that it was dropping after exercise. As soon as I backed off and literally did half the amount, my CP started rising. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I could go back to what I was doing beforehand. So, you know, that's one of the sort of the small everyday examples of how it's helping for me. And I found in my journey with the head injury that it's not these huge big wins that you're looking for. You're not looking for an instant cure, because there is no instant cure. But you're looking for tools that you can use over time. So, you know, I finished the course with Sasha, but I keep going. You know, I'm measuring my, you know, I'm doing my 3 exercises every day, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. And, you know, I'm continuing to read, I'm continuing to study, and I'm continuing to benefit. And sometimes you take a step back, but it's something that's in my life now, just as eating a raw diet is in my life now. It's something that I feel that, you know, I've searched for so long to actually, it's like this relief to understand perhaps the most important aspect of healing, our breath. You know, rest is important, nutrition is important, environment is important, but we're breathing all the time. As a yogi said to me, you know, you can do without food for maybe a month. You can do without water for 10 days. But most people can't do without breath for more than a few minutes. And to realize that you're giving away your energy when you overbreathe was for me, it was just so revolutionary. You know, the number one thing that I have found in recovering from a brain injury has been that the body needs a lot of energy at a time where you don't have much energy. So that I find that anything that can help my energy is something that I'm really, really interested in. Something that will save it. And, you know, doing Buteyko and having a control pause to measure helps me save it and gain it. And I find it in all aspects of my life. You know, I was finding it with my writing. When I first started measuring my writing, I was finding my control pause was falling. And I was just measuring it again today, and it's actually increasing when I'm writing because, you know, I'm changing. I take more breaks. I walk around more. I sort of monitor how I'm talking. So yeah, it's been a game changer for me. And, you know, Sasha is very knowledgeable. You know she knows. And I've literally been all around the world in my healing journey and in speaking. And I can tell people that know, and I can tell people that don't know. And she knows. And that inspires confidence. And confidence is something that you need in this sort of lonely, dark journey of trying to get well, where everybody is telling you, you need to do this, or you need to take that drug, or what have you.
How has it changed you and changed your own practice with people?
Well, it's not just people that it's changed. I'll come on to that one too, but it is certainly with clients. I teach them about the control pause, and I help them to find their own control pause, and I tell them that, which Sasha told me, that if it's under 40, you're suffering. And I don't take it much further than that, other than give them a few things that they can do and mention what I've done. And I'm very much allowing of people to take their own decisions, because if you say you must do this, so many clients won't do it. They've got to come to it in their own time. So, I can show a client I was working with the other day, the control pause was about 17. And, it's quite a shock to them. And then they started, they were a runner. So they started noticing that when they were going up hills, the running was difficult for them. So I suggested, well, what about walking? And just be aware of your breath. And so they tried this, and a week or two went past, and they said it really helped their running, because they were now much more aware of how they were breathing and how the body was doing. Because I use kinesiology, so I test the body. I can test my own body, I test clients' bodies, and so I can know how their body is. But the real journey is for them to be interested in how their body is. And a control pause gives them the control. So I really like doing that. And I've also, Sasha mentioned that she had met somebody who had tried Buteyko with horses. And I've got 2 horses that I look after, and one of them really wasn't that well. So I've started doing Buteyko with the horse, with one of the horses. You cover one nostril and do it for 5 minutes, and then you cover the other nostril. And it's extraordinary. She almost goes into this coma, and she goes really relaxed. I'm doing a lot of other stuff with her, but she was very close to death, and she's certainly not anymore. So I suppose those are 2 examples of working with sort of human and non-human.
That's amazing. So do you have any other further thoughts on the Breathing Center program itself?
I'm a great advocate. I think I found in my the way that I've recovered. I mean, head injuries have an extraordinary legacy in all industrial clients. The stats are horrific. I think they affect 2% of the population who are affected long term with a brain injury. And I found that conventional medicine just wasn't enough, and that I really had to understand the principles behind the way that the body is designed. So I really like the detailed explanation of why Buteyko works and testing those principles. And when you trace anything back through the source, which is where, Sasha's obviously learned it from, the source in the Buteyko clinic in Moscow, it sort of resonates. And I find over 25 years that when you find something that sort of has this lineage of truth, then it just gives you a confidence and you just know that it's working. So that, you know, there are some days. I mean, I sent you my I sent you a graph of my morning CP, and there's these wonderful days where, you know, it's sitting at over 60 and it's no effort whatsoever. And life is no effort when it's over 60. And then there's these other days where you come crashing back down to earth, where for whatever reason it's dropped. But it's just knowing that you have this tool that if you apply it, if you understand the principles behind it, which I do, and you can see that they're valid, and that you know that over time, if you keep going, and, you know, 25 years of ongoing recovery from a head injury teaches me not to look in terms of days or weeks or even months, but look in terms of years. So for me, I'm interested in where my CP will be in a year's time or 2 years' time. Because when I first recovered, when I was recovering from a head injury, I was repeatedly told that where I'd be after 2 years is where I'd be. And I can tell you that after 2 years, where I was in a really difficult state with intense headaches that left me in darkened rooms, very low energy. I had trouble following group conversations. I had trouble with my memory. And quite frankly, I couldn't have done this interview. Because when your brain has a bleed on it, you know, I was windsurfing. I was age 29. I was windsurfing. I hit my head, and, you know, the doctors didn't pick it up. I collapsed 3 weeks afterwards, and you know, then you've got all sorts of MRI scans. But after a few months, they sort of really, they're leaving you to get on. You're doing well. Well, doing well in their terms and having any quality of life were two totally different things. So it took to search, and I have searched as far and as wide as most people in terms of things that work, because, you know, literally I've got a brain that would tell me. When the doctors said, try these drugs, I had to stop them so quickly because they just intensified the headache. I mean, I was just reduced to a darkened room. So, you know, the point that I'm trying to make is that I'm hypersensitive to things that make a difference, and to subtle things that make a difference. You know, I'm still working on being able to talk and maintain my control pause. It's not an easy thing to do, but I know that, you know, in a year's time, I will be further ahead than I am now. And that's the healing journey, is giving ourselves the time. All the tiny little things that don't seem to make any difference. I went through a really difficult period. I've gone through a very difficult period, sort of health-wise. And, you know, before I was doing the Buteyko with Sasha, you know, I'd be getting up once or twice a night to need to go to the loo. I couldn't sleep through the night. The last 2-3 weeks, you know, I don't have to get up at all. My CP is higher in the morning than it is at night. So there's a lot to understand, there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of subtlety. It's not just, well, I'll breathe a little bit less. There's a lot of subtlety, and I think that's what I got in the sort of the one-on-one with Sasha was, well, what do you do about this? What do you do about that? And you know, what it's taught me in working on myself and working with clients, and literally all around the world, human and non. I work with a lot of animals who are incredibly responsive. And therefore, it was no surprise to see the dramatic change in my horse, because they don't fight. They don't have a human mind that goes, well, actually, I don't know if this makes sense to me, or has anybody proved it? My horse she had a couple of panic attacks, but she knew it worked for her. You could see it. And, I then sort of apply that back to myself. That, like, she's never heard of Buteyko, she never read a single book. But if she can just grasp it literally and go like, wow. And I can be standing in the middle of an 8-acre field with no head collar on her. And she can decide to go into this comatose state with her best friend of 15 years, a few yards away, that she could wander off a whole field of grass. And yet she stays for this. And it's like, if they know, then what would it take for us to know? What would it take for all of us to know? Where you don't need a brain injury to be able to tell how powerful breath is, and that certain ways of breathing just aren't helpful. I mean, I'm sure I'll get to the point where I use my yogic training, but my instinct at the time was, this isn't working for me. Me being me, I kept going for 9 months after. But I actually got more ill because it was focusing on over breathing. And if my control pause was over 60, I think it would have been brilliant. But it's not over 60 because I'm Western, and Western people are stressed out their trolleys, so they need help. They need help because they're over breathing. And so, it keeps coming back in this sort of cycle. So it's been brilliant to integrate it into, the philosophies that I've learned and understood, and to be able to share it, with family, clients, and the animals.
That's amazing. And yes, we cannot underestimate the power of accumulation, right? Is what you're saying. And it is so important. And I know on paper you have the credentials, but it's the combination of that plus your experience that makes you such a gift to this world. And I think that it speaks volumes for you to be open to sharing that with others. That only helps other people grow and learn. But it's hard. Anybody who's had a hard journey knows it's hard when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the thick of your hard journey, whatever that looks like, to be able to keep going and keep looking. So to anybody who's out there and is looking and trying to keep going, they're in the thick of their journey, do you have anything specific to share with those people?
Yeah, it's funny because it both brings tears to my eyes and it brings what I call goosebumps to my arms when you ask me that question. How I would have liked to have heard a man like me 25 years ago to say that recovery is possible. Not just possible, it's your birthright. And it's the genuineness when somebody talks from the heart and the soul of their experience. It's to receive it at the heart and soul level. Because my hope is that in sharing if it opens just one person's mind, heart, and soul to taking a step towards better health, then, you know, it's worth the effort of doing the interview, quite frankly. It's never going to be worth the pain that I've gone through, but, you know, we're going to breathe for the rest of our life. Why not align it with what your body is wanting? And that's really the whole of my journey is about aligning with how my body is designed. And it's been about finding out how my body has been designed, whether it's food-wise, exercise-wise, rest-wise, breath-wise. And breath is a big one. If I'd known what I know, I often think about this. If I'd known then what I know now, where would I have started? What would I have done? And breath wouldn't have been that hard to introduce at the beginning. You know, for me, it didn't really surface for 20 years. So I had 20 years of hyperventilating, of over-breathing, of reducing my my healing. You know, it's just like, oh my God. So if I could have got that at the beginning, you know, I think there would have been three things. It would have been breath, rest, which I was often forced to do anyway. I mean, that's how I got reduced to a darkened room. My body just said, no, can't do it. And diet. You know, those would be the three things that I would look after, that I would go on the journey of. And, you know, when I talk to people about nutrition, you know, I'm pretty well on a raw fruit and salad diet, but it's taken me 15 years. I don't advocate, oh yeah, you know, just do a diet any more than do the breath or do the rest. It's you know, what I would say to somebody is take the steps you can. And if you take the steps that you can and you start listening to your body, because that's what changed for me. An hour before I hit my head windsurfing, I was standing in the windsurfing shop trying on helmets. And I didn't buy one because I was just going to go that afternoon and blah, blah, blah. I had a young family and I didn't want to spend the money. You know, it's just like my body led me to the shop. It led me to try them on. But my mind overtook it. And healing, I've learned, is listening to the body. And that's why I trained in kinesiology. And I've done tens of thousands of tests and clearing. And I think it's why my stats are really quite high for this stage of practice, is because I can work with my body. I can listen to what it needs. I can rebalance meridians. I can look at neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals in the brain. I can look at hormones. I can do an awful lot of things. But, you know, if I came down to it and talked to myself 25 years ago, I would say, Ronald, you know, have a look at this Buteyko. Breath is huge. Have a look at your diet and really consider changing a lifestyle to introduce more rest. And if I could even listen to the remote tiny fraction of that, I'm sure I'd have accelerated my recovery immeasurably. And, you know, that's why I share what I share. So that, you know, it was a lonely, dark place 25 years ago. It was before the days that they even believed neuroplasticity, that the brain and neurogenesis, that the brain can heal and form new pathways. They didn't believe it. I had never heard of such concepts, but I hit golf balls. I hit golf balls to rehabilitate my brain. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I didn't realize that I was reprogramming the lower part of my brain and my central nervous system. I followed the wisdom of my body. And I think if you, now I know that if you actually hear what I'm saying, then you'll put breath right slap bang in the middle of any recovery from anything.
You are a very inspiring individual, and your story, I know, has already helped so many people and will continue to help people. So I really want you to know that I appreciate you and I appreciate your time today. And I thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us today.
You're welcome. Let's hope it helps some people. That's all I really care about.